All right, guys. Sorry about that. Welcome to our Strictly Sports Podcast live episode here. We're going to talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament. We're going to wrap that up a little bit. We haven't been on in a couple weeks, so a little bit to talk about from some good games to the not so great championship game, as well as some Masters preview and a little bit of NFL talk in there as well. But let's just jump right into last night's game, which really did not end up being much of a game. It looked like there might have been a little bit of a hangover for Gonzaga from that thriller that they had in the Final Four. But Trav, why don't you start us off with that?
It was pretty crazy to see Baylor come out as hot as they did and as dominant as they did, and pretty much hold on to that level of play the whole game. I know you kind of just mentioned, there was still talk about the hangover. I don't know. I think it's taking a little bit of credit away from Baylor to me because I just feel like the announcers, which I love that crew, by the way, Bill Rafferty and Jim Nance. You guys know my love for Jim, but I just felt like they kept alluding to like, man, is Gonzaga, a little bit of a hangover from that. It's like, all right, they played overtime. They played 5 extra minutes. And I know it was more emotionally draining than what Baylor's was, but Baylor just looked like the better team. They looked like the better team with better athletes that could just run by you. And even down low, they looked more athletic. They looked like their size and their length bothered Gonzaga. I know Gonzaga was heralded as a heavy favorite throughout the tournament and even in this game to a certain degree, but it looked like the opposite. I was surprised because I expected Gonzaga not necessarily to dominate, but to at least compete and be the team to beat as opposed to it looking the other way. But I mean, Baylor was hitting shots, but it was more than just hitting shots. On the offensive glass, you could just tell. They ate up the offensive glass. They got extra opportunities the whole first half. Got a little bit better in the second half, but still, they got extra shots, and they were making more shots. They were more athletic. They could one-on-one isolation. Their guys were able to make plays. If you watch Gonzaga on offense, they really didn't have anything. I mean, I watched them, and I haven't watched a lot of Gonzaga all year, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what offenses they run or anything, but it just looked like in this game, it was kind of like they were just trying to force their way kind of near the basket and look for a cutter. And I know they use the kid Timmy a lot down low. He was pretty much neutralized from the jump with the bigs that Baylor put on him. They couldn't get to him and run their offense through him, which I know they like to do. And so it seemed like their guards just didn't have the athleticism to get around Baylor guards, and they couldn't make shots like Baylor's making shots. And so just like they had nothing on offense, and then on defense, Gonzaga couldn't get boards and Baylor's making shots. So it just looked like a team that had way better athletes on the Baylor side. And Gonzaga, I don't think they pride themselves on being better athletes. They pride themselves on team ball, and I think playing a really good brand of ball, and it just looked like they didn't do that last night.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of the game. I had intended to, and I watched a little bit of it early, and what I saw was just a lopsided, just not a competitive game. And so I was just like, I'm not really that worried about watching a bunch of this if it's not going to be competitive. So I was doing some of the things, and then I'd flip back, and it just looked. I'd watch for 5 or 6 minutes, and it would be the same thing the whole time. It was just like you said, Trav. The entire game was just the same story. It just felt like Gonzaga was never really in that game.
Yeah.
Like the whole way. So like every time I would flip off and flip back, I'd be like, man, same thing. And then I'd see, they went on a run where it was like a 4-0 run for Gonzaga. And then like, boom, like Baylor would come back with like a 6-0 run and go up, now they're up 15 or 16. It's like, this isn't even really a competitive game, which it sucks because, ultimately, yeah, you want the tournament to end in a great, final game to cap off a tournament, but we didn't get that. I think the best game we got thriller wise in a big moment would have been the semifinal, but yeah, overall, I think probably a letdown as far as the championship game.
Yeah, I'm just really surprised that Gonzaga got tested, other than getting beaten. They got tested one time pretty hard throughout the entire tournament, and it seems like it affected them in the semifinal game. Yeah, Baylor has kind of been one of those schools that's been there. I don't know if y'all remember back when Kentucky went undefeated that one year. Baylor played them really tough, and they've had some really good squads.
They've had some good squads over the off and on for the past 7-8 years. Yeah.
So they have good athletes. I've wondered a lot throughout the year and I'm not trying to take anything away from Gonzaga, but just we talked about it a little bit, level of competition. What would happen when they played against a team that was supremely talented and maybe like a lot more athletic? And I don't want to take away anything against the teams they've played throughout the tournament, but I think they just ran into a buzzsaw and maybe left everything out in the court against UCLA.
Yeah, I think it brings up a good point there that you're saying there. I mean, it makes you just wonder, maybe Gonzaga was overhyped and just didn't, because of they don't face the kind of competition. Like you said, we alluded to this a couple weeks ago when we talked about Gonzaga at the beginning of the tournament. How much of a favorite should they be given they don't play in the major conference? And I went on my whole rant about how, I mean, if you really look at what Fuse built there in the last especially in the last 5 to 7 years, them pretty much being perennial 1 seeds, and their path is easier, but maybe they got exposed, and maybe their route in the tournament itself. Because I mean, I remember when I watched what Baylor did in the semifinal, and then I watched what Gonzaga did. Yep. Gonzaga had a way higher seeded team, or lower seed, however you, team, but a way easier seeded team. Obviously, UCLA is playing really good ball, made it to the Final Four, right. But nonetheless, a way lower seeded team, and struggled in overtime to beat them. And then you saw what Baylor did to Houston, the 2 seed. So that had me thinking like, wow, okay, Baylor might do this. And I didn't think they'd beat them like they did. But yeah, it made you wonder if and maybe I have to go back and break down who they played in their their previous 2 games.
Right.
And maybe they just weren't tested all year because and enough anyway. Because like I said, they beat Iowa, who was a good Big Ten team. They beat West Virginia, who was a good Big 12 team, and there was one other big team. I think it was Illinois. They beat 2 quality Big Ten teams and a very quality Big 12 team. So they were tested some. They actually, the funny thing is, they were supposed to play Baylor in the regular season. I don't know if y'all know that.
Baylor
really? They were supposed to play Baylor, but the COVID canceled it. And so it would have been interesting to see how that game would have turned out and what the rematch would have looked like. And I don't know. I don't know if it was just the moment got to them in the first 5 minutes, they just couldn't get back because they were down 15 points in the first 5 minutes and they couldn't get back. Or maybe Baylor's just that good and Gonzaga was just exposed for what they really are, which is a team that wouldn't be that good if they played in a power conference. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Admittedly, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, this might sound awful, but I was hoping Gonzaga wouldn't win. Like, if Gonzaga is going to win,
why are you a Gonzaga hater, Dan? I feel like you hate
I have a reason. I have a reason for this. And I kind of am, because I feel like they get all this love. They get number 1 seeds when they play in like the WAC or whatever. And like, if you go to like the ACC and you play against that juggernaut, or like, some of the other big, back in the day, like the Big 12, that's not even around anymore, but just like those tougher conferences, so to speak. I'm sorry, the Big East is what I was talking about. Anyway, I'm kind of like, if they're going to do it, let's do it in a year where there's like power teams there, because this is definitely like has a little asterisk next to it because of the tournament and the way that the season went. Let's let them do it when all the blue bloods are there and really come through.
I agree with you on that, but I will say, here's the difference with Gonzaga. They, in the last like 5 years, and this is why they're able to get 1 seeds, why they get respect that other teams wouldn't if they went close to undefeated, because Gonzaga's been going close to undefeated for the last 5 years. It's like 34-2, or it's this or that. It wasn't, fully undefeated completely like it was this year until the championship game. But they do schedule out of conference very tough, and they win those games.
Yeah. I was going to say that, Trav. Yeah.
But and like this year, what I just mentioned, they were supposed to play Baylor, and then 3 teams that they didn't. Right. That would have been 4 tough out of conference. But the difference is, when you're in a conference where you play those quality opponents night in and night out, every single
half your schedule is that, or
twice a week you go up against the blue blood type teams, and then the teams that are just a notch below. And obviously their power conference has their bad teams, but for the most part, it's quality opponent night in, night out. They pretty much get night in, night out cake compared to the blue bloods that the other teams are playing. Now those teams there's some good mid majors in there or whatever, but not the level. And so it's different when it's like, oh, well, they played 4 tough out of conference games and went 3-1. Well, this team played a whole conference worth and went, 12-4 in conference. They're battle tested in a different way, and it exposes you in a different way if you were in that big conference. And it'd just be interesting. I'd be interested to see what Gonzaga would do if they got, put them in the ACC. Let's see. I'm anxious to see, like, would they be a 500 ACC team?
That would be awesome.
Would they be a number 1 seed, and they'd show that, we could do it. You just don't get a chance to see enough of it like the other teams do. So you'll never really know, I guess.
I kind of wish that.
Even if they went,
I was just gonna say, I kind of wish that Michigan would have found a way to pull it out against UCLA and would have played a little bit better, because that might have been a better game against Gonzaga, and they might have beaten Gonzaga if they played the way they did. And then Michigan Baylor could have been a great final. But
well, speaking of that, I do want to just put in a little. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched that UCLA Gonzaga game was one of the best college basketball games I've ever watched. Back and forth the whole way at the end. One of the greatest buzzer beater shots you'll ever see. I've never heard Jim Nantz get that excited. His voice was cracking. I've never heard that dude get like that flustered, excited. Like, it was crazy, but I mean, great game. That's one of the best. That made the tournament for me. And I know that the final was a letdown, but that game alone was enough to to salvage a good Final Four.
Yeah, I feel like most years there's like a lot of early round good games like that with buzzer beaters, last minute scores, and change possession. But it wasn't like that this year. There was a lot of upsets, but it just wasn't good game upsets. It wasn't like last possession upsets.
And I felt like it lacked a lot of last second shots and buzzer beaters. I'd agree with that. But I did want to say one more thing before we go on to another topic about Baylor, and a shout out to Scott Drew. Okay, he took over that program. I was telling Juddy this earlier today. He took over that program in 2003, and a lot of people, I didn't even remember this until they brought it back up for some pregame stuff. He took over that program in 2003 after a murder scandal. They basically had one basketball player murder another basketball player. I don't know if you guys remember this. Patrick Dennehy got murdered on the Baylor team by another player.
I do remember that.
It basically launched a big investigation into the basketball program, which found all this bad stuff going on. They were on sanctions and probations for like 5 years. Pretty bad ones too. Pretty much everything short of the death penalty there for like 5 years. And Scott Drew took over the job amidst all that. And he was only, 1 year coach at Valparaiso. So Baylor was still a big step up. He takes that job, and look what now it's taken a while to win a national championship, but he put them on the map within about, 5 to 7 years, which obviously he's not going to put them on the map while they're on probation. So it took him that 5-year period to get him out of that. And then, he made him pretty relevant shortly after that, and look at him now. So big props to what he's done and what he did with what he took over and where they're at now. And you alluded to it, Dan. It's not like Baylor winning the national championship this year is some sort of surprise. They've been a good team, a good basketball program for 7, 8, 10 years now.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously, the news that came out, switching gears a little bit, still in college basketball, the news that came out with Roy Williams retiring from UNC. A couple of UNC fans here on the podcast. Aggie, what were your initial thoughts when you saw it? Was it expected? Was it
Trav? We'll just ignore that Duke fan. No, I mean, in the last few years, honestly, I feel like his level of coaching has declined a little bit. And he's getting up there in age. So at any point in time in the last couple of years, it wouldn't have surprised me for him to say, okay, it's time for me to step down. And then for them to go with Hubert Davis, I mean, he's been kind of like his right-hand man for a little while now. And so I don't think that's a surprise at all that he was the guy who ended up, getting that job. As far as Roy, though, just to talk about him, I've heard a lot of people being like, and not a lot, but I've heard some people like, well, I think he could have done more in the time that he was there. I'm like, he won 3 championships in 18 seasons. Like, that's one every 6 years. It's actually hard to win a championship in college basketball.
And Aggie, that's actually the most in the last 18 years. The most titles is 3 with UNC. So
right. So and he made the Final Four 6 times. Yep. He won the ACC regular season 9 times. That's half the seasons. He won the regular season,
in the toughest conference.
Arguably the toughest of So. Right. I can't say enough about, how grateful I am as a fan to be like, man, that guy got it done for us. He got me 3 titles in my, being of like an actual age to like understand sports and watch it and enjoy it and be invested in it. So, my hat's off to him. Great career. And he actually was a really good coach at Kansas too. Before that, he never won one, but he made the Final Four like twice with them in 5 years.
Anybody naysaying Roy and what he did at UNC or Kansas is out of their minds. I loved Roy at Kansas. It pained me as a Duke fan when he went to UNC because I was like, man, I can't root for the guy anymore. But I still did. I mean, I always loved him as a coach, period. A lot of people took a lot away from him at Kansas because he never won a title there, but he did so many good things. He put Kansas on the map. Bill Self should thank Roy Williams every day that he built that program at Kansas for him to take over and him to be able to have what he has. Because Bill Self, that or anybody at Kansas, that program would not be what it is or anywhere close to it if not for Roy Williams. So one of the greats of all time. I still love Roy regardless of the UNC coach. And I'm going to miss him tearing up and just randomly crying at press conferences because he gets so emotional and he just kind of, it does seem like he's kind of been puttering around on the sidelines as kind of an old dude the last couple years.
I think it's health related though, personally.
A lot of it is, the vertigo issues
I mean, he said the reason was he said he wasn't the best man for the job anymore, but I think he knows there's a little bit to like I'm aging, and then there's a new age in college basketball, the transfer rule and all this stuff. I know they speculated a lot, and a lot of people think he doesn't like that, and that's one of the reasons he's getting out because they had two big time players transfer like a couple weeks ago right after the season ended, and a lot of people were thinking that had something to do with it. I don't know if it was that much or just more of the buildup of the way college basketball is changing, and he's obviously not getting any younger to adapt to it. So I think it was a lot of things, but I think it seems like the right time. And I mean, hats off. He was one of the best to ever do it, man.
Yeah.
I don't have much to add. I liked Roy, but when a good coach like that leaves a school like that, and you're a Kentucky fan,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about it either, but I'll say this. Let's
Great
transition the
opportunity for
conversation.
us.
Aggie alluded to it a little bit, but here's what I think about the hire of Hubert Davis. North Carolina has a pattern of hiring internal guys. After Dean Smith, they hired 2, and it didn't work.
Yep.
And so they went and got Roy, who was kind of internal.
He was an assistant there for a while.
He was a former assistant and a long-time assistant of Dean Smith. So
he was proven. He was proven.
It was kind of a guy who was like our guy, but he was a proven coach at another program.
Right.
And so now they're going back to kind of the Matt Guthrie type or whatever, Matt Doherty.
Matt Doherty.
And,
I think we're in for some bad years.
The other guy who was there with
rough.
Doherty, with that period of time where it didn't work for UNC. So that feels like it's that similar thing with Hubert Davis. I'm not saying it's going to work out that way. I'm just saying for me, if I'm a fan, why wouldn't we place a call to Jay Wright? Why wouldn't we place a call to Mark Few?
For real.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah. I'm
why
hesitant.
wouldn't we? Heck, John Calipari. I mean, anybody.
Yeah.
Just see, like UNC is the best of the best. UCLA, Duke, Kentucky, and UNC. That is the Mount Rushmore of college basketball. Any coach that's not at one of those programs could potentially, and obviously John Cal's already at Kentucky.
It's an upgrade.
He would make it.
Yeah.
But Jay Wright, you don't think he'd be interested? Mark Few, you don't think he'd be interested? And those guys are proven program guys that Hubert Davis isn't. So for me, it's a great internal hire. I'm sure he'll be great, but I would have at least wanted to go and make it a national search with the best of the best. From what I understand, they only interviewed in-house assistant UNC candidates.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by it. I mean,
I wasn't either.
That's kind of the way they operate. But that doesn't mean I'm like, I'm a little nervous.
I'm hesitant. I told Trav on the way tonight, I told him, I said, I think we're in for a few down years. I just don't think that Hubert Davis, like, I like the guy. Yeah, I liked him when he was a college analyst for ESPN. Like, he's been, obviously, for the last 10 years, he's been at UNC as an assistant. But I feel like he's not the kind of name that's going to draw big-time recruits to me. Like, he's not a guy that people are going to be like, oh, well, he's taken over. It's still UNC, but he's going to run it the same way. Like, he's got to prove himself for a few years, and that might really hurt recruiting over the next few years, which could make them suffer. I'm curious to know how long they're going to give him, how much of a leash they get. Like I told you, Trav, if they go a couple of years where, maybe they putter into the tournament but don't win a game, or they maybe win one game but don't do anything in the tournament for the next few years, how long are they going to give him before they're like, okay, we got to go get a real guy that can actually run this program?
We'll see. I mean, I'm going to give him a chance. He might be great. But I'm just saying,
I hope so.
If I'm a fan of the team, and like I say, I'm a fan of Duke, so I'm cool with like not going to get an improving guy. But if I'm a fan of the team, I want a national search to see if we can get Jay Wright, to see if we can get Mark Few, to see if we can get one of these guys, whoever it may be. I'm just naming 2 guys, to see whoever it may be who's turned a program and coached a top level program for 10 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, and done it there. And obviously, if you can do it there, you can do it at UNC, because UNC's, there's plenty of people that want to go play there. It's the blue blood of college basketball. So
we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm hesitant, but I mean, only time will tell. So hopefully,
I think John Calipari is the next one to go, just so you all know. So I don't think he's coaching until he's in his 70s.
I mean, he'll bounce back somewhere else. He'll go somewhere else, I think.
Somewhere else? What do you mean?
Where else is there to go?
No, I'm saying, like, if he leave, like, you don't think he's gonna get fired?
I think Dan's saying he'll retire. Dan's talking about retiring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
not leaving.
I thought you were talking about just because Kentucky's had a couple of not so great years.
No. I think he's gonna retire early.
Okay.
I don't feel like he thinks he has much more to prove.
I'm wondering when Coach K is gonna retire. To be honest, I feel like
I've wondered that for years. I don't think he's long off.
He's in the 70s now.
Yeah. I think he is 70.
It's gonna be a changing of the guard for a lot of these programs. It's gonna be interesting to see if they go with like the young hires or
guys have coached for like 40 years, man. It's crazy.
Trav, who's that longtime assistant that's been at Duke? That's been coaching for a while. There's that one.
If you're talking about Capel. Capel left for Pittsburgh a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So he's at Pitt. And actually Nate James is kind of the newest lead assistant, and he just got hired at one of the smaller programs I heard.
What about John
Shire? So
now
it's like I think honestly the latest 2 guys who are now like the lead assistants is Nolan. Is it Nolan Smith? The kid who played back in 2010, and John Shire.
John Shire, yeah. That's what
Both of those 2 kids played in 2010 national championship team. They're like the new lead assistants because like all the other ones keep getting hired.
The only better coach that could have got hired,
Pitt,
the only better hire for UNC would have been if they would have brought like Tubby Smith in out of retirement or something. I would have loved it. It would have been amazing.
Is he retired? He's not coaching Minnesota anymore?
No, I don't think so.
He was on ESPN for a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Kentucky for 1 year. He used Patino's players and won a national championship, and it got him like 2 or 3 other jobs after that. But it would have been awesome.
Well, we'll see what happens. We got a while before college
Toby.
basketball is relevant again. So the end of a
Yeah.
pretty decent season. Obviously, some asterisks and the COVID related stuff. But we're gonna.
We
switch
did have
gears.
a first time listener, Rudy Kochman, said tournament wasn't the same without the crowds. Can't take the cardboard cutouts any longer. It's an insult to the average person's intelligence.
True.
I think that's
That's
a
actually
pretty
an interesting. I never heard somebody word it that way, but I kind of agree, man. I'm ready for fans too. It's
Hey, we have football to look forward to because they're saying all
Yeah.
signs are pointing to full stadiums, which would be great.
Let's do it.
Yeah. But before we talk a little bit of football, we're gonna talk a little bit of golf here. The Masters is coming up, which is obviously one of our favorite weekends in sports. And coming right off the heels of a nice victory from Spieth, maybe he's looking like he could be a contender. Obviously, you've got Jon Rahm as a favorite. Justin Thomas is always up there. Dustin Johnson. So what are you guys thinking?
Bryson, baby.
Bryson, we don't get a Bryson mention.
I hate Bryson. Dude. I'm not gonna give him any mentions.
Oh wait, you hate him now too?
Listen. I saw an article on ESPN that was like, it was like Bryson versus the Masters. Will this be the tournament where he changes the course of history forever? I'm like, this is garbage. Get this out of here. Like,
look, he would eat you for breakfast, dude.
Of course he would. He's a professional golfer.
Look, dude, I'm with you on the fact
on the video games, and we'll see who wins.
I know.
I'm with you on the fact that he is overhyped still, and they like people talking about changing golf and all this. But
what the heck?
And I'm the biggest Bryson. Well, I was supposedly the biggest Bryson hater, and really all I hate is the coverage and the media hype about him. But seeing with the way he played the Arnold Palmer Invitational, as good as he played the Players, and then a couple weeks, I know he didn't play well at the Dell Technologies match play, and then he took off last week where Spieth won. But leading into it, I'm looking at it as like the first guy that comes to my mind because he's been playing great golf. Like I've never been. I told y'all this. I've never been like a guy who thinks he's bad or thinks he can't win. Like he is. The way he's played in the bigger tournaments. To me, Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Players are the two bigger ones leading up to the Masters. Dell Technologies, the match play a little bit, and then last week's tournament. Yeah, nice that Spieth won, but it was not a competitive field. It was a very weak field or whatever. So I'm looking at those two. And those two guys that won is Bryson won, and he competed well in the Players, and then Justin Thomas won the Players. So to me, those are my two favorites right there. Bryson, Justin Thomas. Obviously, DJ is always a force to be reckoned with. I'm interested to see what Spieth does. It was nice to see him get that win, get off the schneid. 4 years with this guy not winning. It's crazy to think about that. And I love Spieth. I would love to see him win the Masters. I'm a huge Spieth fan. But I still don't look at him as the Spieth of old just yet. So I'm not really to call him one of my favorites. To me, I usually would say Koepka, but like I said, the Justin Thomas, Bryson DeChambeau, DJ, you always have to be reckoned with.
Koepka's not good at the Masters, though.
He's not, and he's been dealing with too many little nagging injuries. I don't think he's in form right now. So those would be the three off the top of my head. Jon Rahm would be the fourth. The four guys I would look at there, with Bryson maybe being either Bryson or Justin Thomas, but I'm willing to say Bryson, it's fair to call him the odds-on favorite because of the way he's been playing leading up. I mean, he's just playing good golf. He's in contention every week that he plays generally.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have any Rory talk. We don't have any.
I was actually thinking about Rory, man.
No Ricky Fowler. Fowler. He's too busy taking a photo shoot.
I can't say Ricky because Ricky's kind of a joke. Like, I love Ricky and I really want him to win, but I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I
know you've been hard on Ricky, Dan, but I don't think Ricky, to me, the reason I'm not hard on him anymore is because in the last 2 to 3 years, I don't think he's viewed as an elite golfer anymore.
No.
And I think he hasn't won any
tournaments. It's the same thing as Bryson. You always hear about him, even though he's not elite, and it really irritates me.
But
I don't think they do anymore, though. I don't really hear much about Ricky.
Who talks about Ricky? Who do you hear talking about Ricky? I don't hear anybody.
I never hear anybody talk about him.
They talk about him a lot, and then by the time, obviously we get to the third and fourth round, he's not in contention, so they no longer talk about him. But they do. They always have to mention him. But he's just such a massive, he has so much talent. It just makes you wonder, what happened.
Honestly, I would say this. I think he's been a good golfer. He's always, been a solid golfer. But like Trav said, he's not elite. He's not viewed as elite anymore. But to me, I kind of get this vibe from Ricky that he's like, to him, winning it all isn't really, because he doesn't have the BP. To me, I don't think he has the BP to I need to win this major. I need to win this tournament. He's making his money. He's got his endorsements.
Yeah.
He's playing golf. He's a professional golfer. He's probably living the lifestyle that he wants to live. He probably just, I don't know, he just comes across as kind of a casual guy who's just a really good golfer, but kind of casual in
Not a lot of fire in his belly.
He doesn't have a lot of. Yeah, I don't think he does because there's guys that get like he never gets like maybe internally he does, but like when you watch him have like bad shots or like he has a bad round, he's just like, yeah, I just didn't have it today.
I mean that might be the case, but Dustin Johnson's the same way.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys just don't show it on the outside, but I mean, and maybe it is, but I just the where I dispute with you, Dan, is I don't hear in the last 2 to 3 years, I haven't heard any of the Ricky talk because I think people just acknowledge, okay, he's not that relevant anymore. He hasn't won a lot of tournaments recently. He hasn't competed in any big ones. So we just like acknowledge that, 5 to 7 years ago, he was like all the talk, like, when's he going to win one? He's like the new young player that's great. And he's going to be this, how great is he going to be? And I think now that is fizzled out and people don't hype him up. So I don't rip them for that because I don't think he's hyped anymore.
I got to mention one name that we didn't mention, and that's Colin Morikawa.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he's playing. I haven't really watched too much golf, but he's number 2 in the world right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's played pretty well leading up, and he's definitely an Andy record. Another name here.
What did he win?
I got a personal text from one of our viewers, from one of our faithful viewers, Greg Ferry, said, "Don't forget about Lee Westwood." And we had the Lee Westwood conversation a while back. Lee Westwood will probably lead after 3 rounds by a stroke.
Yeah, collapse on Sunday.
Back or something like that because he just can't finish. But I guarantee you, I would be willing to bet that he is within 2 strokes of the lead, at least within 2 strokes of the lead, playing well going to the last day. And then the last day, who knows what will happen. He'll play well, but I don't think he wins it.
I feel like the only time he ever really gets it done is in the Ryder Cup against us.
Yeah. I mean, he gets it done. I mean, he wins tournaments.
I know, but like the majors in a big spot.
But the bigger ones,
Yeah.
the bigger ones, he's had plenty of chances to win it. He never has. So.
Hey, maybe we'll see something out of your boy Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, I love Tommy. He's always
We got Xander Schauffele as well.
Xander's another one of my guys.
Really good at the Masters. So
hey, Scotty Scheffler, a guy I'm excited about that potentially probably will be on this Ryder Cup team, a young up and coming American guy that I think will affect Ryder Cups in the future. He played really. I don't know if you guys watch any of the match play. The match play is really fun to watch. And another guy to keep your eye on, the guy who won, Billy Horschel, who won the match play event against Scotty Scheffler. I believe he played Scotty Scheffler
really
in the
well.
final.
He did, yep.
And Scotty Scheffler, both of those guys, but Scotty Scheffler's got some game, man. Watch out for him.
Yeah, there's so many names. I want to see just a
Tony
crowded.
Finau.
I was going to say Tony Finau. I want to see a crowded leaderboard like on Saturday or Sunday. Like I want to see the top of the top. But I also kind of part of me wants to see a new guy win it who hasn't won the Masters before. Somebody who
does Mickelson make any splash at all in this?
I doubt
it.
He's done.
What I do like to see though is with all these names we talked about, right? Like these young guys who are like kind of the hotter guys in the top 10, whatever, so to speak, in golf. See how many of those miss the cut, because like there always is like a few guys that you're like, wow, that guy missed the cut. So I always like to see like
who would
I like to see who those big name guys are that like, wow, that dude missed the cut.
What would be like I know this is kind of like a random hypothetical question, but what would be the biggest thing to shock you if you were to see it at the end of the tournament? What would be the biggest shock to you? For me, I think my biggest shock would be to see like a guy like DJ or like Spieth or Rory like miss the cut. Like if they just completely fell apart. If like
that happens. Like we just said, like that happens. You see big name guys do it.
That wouldn't stun me at all. I mean, big names miss the cut all the time.
I'm talking about guys that are playing really well right now.
I would like to see the coverage if Bryson misses the cut.
Dude, that would be great.
He missed the cut at what was it? The one how he got hyped up after the U.S. Open. I think it was the Masters. He missed the cut at the Masters. I think he missed the cut at the Masters last year.
The fall Masters.
And they tried to blame it on he didn't feel well or whatever. He was like under the weather on the second round. He missed the cut by like a stroke.
Get that nonsense out of here.
Because he won. Because look, he won the U.S. Open. And the U.S. Open.
Johnny's getting riled up.
The U.S. Open was played right before the Masters last year because of the scheduling change.
It was in the fall.
And he missed. Yeah, and he missed the cut at the Masters, if I'm not mistaken. And so he might miss it again. Who knows? I mean,
Dan, you know who I'm pulling
like
for?
I said,
Dan?
the way he's playing.
But the thing about it, his bomb drives, like I don't know that Augusta sets up for that kind of style.
Well, that article that was like
that course makes you hit certain shots, like
that clickbaity article about will he take over the course, blah blah blah, and change how Augusta's. It talks about how like he hit it long, but he hit it left and he hit it right and wide.
Right, you got to hit very specific shots off the tee at Augusta.
I'm ready to see Patrick Reed win it again.
You know what? He has the game for it, man.
And
he has the moxie.
He's another good player.
He has the moxie. That's what I like about him. I love him in like Ryder Cup situations. Like
he's Captain America. He's Captain America.
He plays like I would. Like I don't care if you're my best friend, you're my enemy. Like the entire time. I'm gonna let you know.
He's been known to be like the most hated guy on the tour because of that attitude. But that's how Tiger was. Yeah. That's exactly how Tiger was. And so, and that's fun. That's how you got to be. Patrick Reed's another guy that puts himself in contention like week after week to win tournaments, and he does win a good fair share of tournaments. Oh yeah, he could definitely win. I mean, he's won one before, so. You definitely do it.
It'll be interesting.
That's like when we play 2-on-2 us, you're all my cousins, but
Man.
yeah.
Like
So
miss,
crazy.
miss.
I'm ready to punch you right in the face after a match, Dan. You know that.
you know what we should do if we play together, we should draw teams on the show and like put a friendly wager on it and kind of take it that way or something.
I feel like
I'm always down to wager for an extra box of Martins.
It'd be a little unfair if it was me and Trav versus you and Aggie though. At some point, that'd be a little unfair. I feel like.
Well,
throwing it out there.
Listen, we could have a good day. You never know.
Hey Dan,
as long as it's not me and Danny versus Uncle Bees and Steve Hartman.
Oh my gosh! Hey, they just shot 10 over this past weekend at a golf scramble, and they were not on their A game.
Hey, all I know, Dan, is that you and me found a way to beat Trav and Aggie my pre-wedding golf round. That's all that matters.
I don't remember that.
Right.
9 holes.
We had a bad
whatever
day.
that course was called. Whatever that course was called.
But all I
remember
remember
is
is
random pond in the middle of every hole, like
the magnificent flop shot out of the sand.
Out of the sand to save par. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Prime.
Probably.
But as we wrap up the show here, we do want to touch a little bit on the NFL. So there was a little bit of news that kind of was interesting to some of us here. But Jets actually traded Sam Darnold to the Panthers. He's kind of been a topic of hot discussion. Will they trade him? Do they want to keep him? Do they want to give him another contract? That kind of thing. Are they going to draft a quarterback at 2? I think it's all pretty much been written that they are drafting a quarterback at 2. But that's kind of an interesting move to see the Panthers get him.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it makes me question. Are they not? They don't believe in Bridgewater, or is he just a backup?
No,
like
they never believe. I don't think they ever believe in him long term.
He was a top
Yeah,
guy.
what is his contract? Like how many years?
It was like a 3-year deal.
Okay,
and I think if I'm
kind of
not
like
mistaken,
a bridge.
If I'm not mistaken, after,
he's a bridge.
yeah, it's funny because a lot of people said he's a Bridgewater.
Yeah,
and I think he was. So I'm not.
You've been thinking that one up all week.
I know, but also someone you can think of as a good backup after if you bring a young guy in, like if he's willing to be that guy,
Right, for less money. He's making too much money for backup right now.
I feel like the Saints should possibly take a run at getting Bridgewater back. He knows their system a little bit. They can't believe in Jameis Winston as their future quarterback. I mean, if you were to go, would you go Jameis or would you go Bridgewater?
I would probably go Bridgewater.
I'd go Bridgewater personally.
With all the talent they have around him, Jameis has too much risk.
Jameis can put the ball down the field.
Listen, yeah, exactly. Do you want a guy who probably will never win you a Super Bowl, but he won't lose you a season either? Or do you want the guy who might lose you a season, but has the upside with the talent that the Saints have to win you a Super Bowl? Jameis has far more upside, but he also has far more. His floor is much lower because he can throw 30 interceptions.
I look at it with all the offensive talent they need. All they need is a game managing guy who can get the guys the ball.
Drew Brees. That's what Drew Brees was for the last 2 years. And
yeah, but
I feel like Bridgewater's arm's better than Brees's is now.
Wait, I thought you were on the Taysom Hill bandwagon.
Yeah, I never was on Taysom Hill as a full-time quarterback ever.
Hold on, before we get into what I'll say about the Saints thing is, according to Sean Payton, he loves Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, and they think that they keep putting out, and I don't necessarily think even Sean Payton believes this, but they keep saying that they believe their future quarterback is in the building. So they like one of those two guys, and I don't think they think it's Bridgewater. If it's not one of those two, it's not Bridgewater. Bridgewater, I think, was all along something they thought, we can bring a guy in and be competitive, but we're not going to, until we find the guy. So I think, specifically on the Darnold to the Panthers, I think it's a good move. I was a little surprised that it was the Panthers because I thought there were other teams out there that need a quarterback of the future that would be more likely to go get him. Yeah. And I think the price they gave up for him is a pretty fair one. They
what was it?
First round pick. They gave up a 6th rounder this year and a second and a 4 and a second and a 4 next year. So I don't think that's too much. I think you get a guy. I still like Darnold. I wanted
Pittsburgh to get him. I did.
I wanted Pittsburgh to get him. I wanted a lot of teams. If I'm a bunch of teams out there, I'm disappointed. A fan of a bunch of teams, I'm disappointed that there was a guy available that could be a future top 10 quarterback in the league that we didn't go get.
We don't know what Darnold can be because he always played on a sucky team.
We don't.
They were awful.
Yeah, but I believe in him. I'm not saying I know he'll be good, but I believe in him. I think he will be pretty good once he gets in a good situation.
Yeah, hopefully with Matt Rule, I think his name.
But Joe Brady.
Yeah.
Joe Brady's the
right.
OC. He's the OC.
Right,
that's why people are excited because everyone was saying, look at Joe Burrow before Joe Brady and then look at him after. And then they're saying, now look at Sam Darnold, and they were also
comparisons there for sure.
They were saying, look at Ryan Tannehill under Adam Gase.
Yeah.
And they said,
Right.
and then look at him when he left there. Now,
Yeah.
now look
it's
at
true.
Sam Darnold and what he could be under Joe Brady. And
Which
you
is
could have
funny.
Like a total
It's
transformation.
funny that everybody
So,
should think
Which
Adam
is funny
Gase was the
because
quarterback
yeah,
whisperer.
everybody, yeah, exactly. I was just thinking that. Like everybody was like, yeah, he's the guy.
dude,
groomed
he
his
had
Peyton
quarterbacks.
Manning.
it was
Peyton
Peyton
Manning.
Manning. It was Peyton Manning.
Yeah, he was already groomed, bro. He was already groomed.
Dude, every offensive coordinator that got to be the OC of Peyton Manning, who just sat back and did no work because Peyton is the offensive coordinator,
Right.
and made
Right.
him look like a genius.
You can
all these
call
guys,
whatever
Jim
play you
Caldwell,
want.
all these
He's gonna
guys.
call
None
it
of these
the
dudes are
line.
that great at coaches. And
Adam Gase is the Tubby Smith of the NFL, man. He just rode on the coattails.
I mean,
no, what I
when
wanted
they
to say
hired him,
was
hold on, who hired
Yeah.
Adam Gase first? Wasn't the Miami?
Miami.
the Dolphins, yeah.
Yeah. And then he did.
Tannehill.
I mean, he actually had one playoff year. I remember we beat the crap out of them one year in the
Yeah.
wild card game. It was the first time the Dolphins made the playoffs in a while, so maybe a little credit. But he didn't prove himself to do anything, and then he gets rehired as the Jets. It's like,
He was such a weirdo
Dude.
in New York, though. He was so
Still
weird.
is. Still is
yeah, oh
weird.
yeah, he got real weird. Yeah,
And then Philly interviewed him, and I was like, why? Like, what do you see here that would
What?
make you want to interview him?
a
Dan.
third. He gets a third. Yeah,
Dan, I
That's
wanted to
crazy
ask
to
you.
me.
Speaking of Philly, how do you feel about them trading away their number 6 pick, the Dolphins?
I'm okay with it. I think it's a year late. Last year, they should have traded back and got more draft picks and built around Wentz so he didn't leave this year. But you know
But
what? That's how he rose for
A
you.
former Eagles lineman tweeted about it when it happened and said, "Oh, so this is why they intentionally lost that game against the Giants in Week 16 or whatever,
just to trade back.
just to
Yeah.
trade back the pick that you supposedly were gonna get." So interesting.
Hey, what I wanted to say is I'm hearing a lot of chatter that now that the Jets traded Darnold, they're looking at Zach Wilson as
Yep.
like his
Yeah,
replacement.
it's Zach Wilson. And all accounts from everybody is that they're definitely taking Wilson.
What are your guys' thoughts on him, just real quick before we get off here?
I
Like,
think
you
he's gonna be a
it's-
bust.
I don't really know a
Personally-
lot about him, to be honest with you.
I mean,
BY
he looks really
BYU.
talented, but if I'm looking at him or
Yeah.
Darnold, I don't know that I think he's going to be any better than Darnold.
Kind
And
of looks
I
like
don't
almost
think
very
if-
similar.
Whoever the Jets draft, I expect them to fail no matter who it is because it's the Jets.
Exactly.
Listen, I will say
Exactly.
this: there is a possibility that Robert Saleh could be, he could be a good coach for that situation. We don't know. Possible.
The problem is,
I think the problem is in the
do
front
you know where
office,
Joe
though.
Douglas was just at? He was in Philly, and he left that mess of a situation, and then he went to the Jets.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't think
he also
Saleh's
won
gonna
a Super
fix the
Bowl there
offense.
too. So
That's true.
Who's
He's a
going to fix the
defensive guy.
offense? He's a defensive guy.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a defensive
Right.
guy. Yep.
Well,
it sounds like Saleh liked Darnold though, but like he was talked into like trading him.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when you're in New York, you don't get to make those decisions.
Look, they could have traded the two. They could have traded the number 2 pick for countless valuable picks and kept Darnold. But
Could have.
Because the guy has never had anybody around him that was
Exactly.
decent.
exactly.
Well,
How many picks are you just gonna keep drafting guys?
yeah,
and 3
exactly.
Years later, you,
Well, then they're-
finally you realize
One of these
maybe
guys
it's
will
'cause
work
our
out.
organization sucks terribly.
Yeah.
That
Right.
all these supposedly great talents at quarterback can't succeed is because we don't put the pieces in place around them.
And when you do
Right,
get good
right.
players that aren't quarterbacks, they want to leave after 3 or 4 years because they're in a crappy team and they want to get a big contract somewhere else and win.
Yep.
So you can't blame them.
You got to get guys to buy in and stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He's a
hopefully,
Wayne Cabret back there.
hopefully in a few weeks we'll get to see kind of what happens with the draft. We're in talks right
Yeah,
now
I'm
about
excited about
possibly doing a show about the draft, either post or pre-draft. But we'll let you guys know. But we will
We should
not
do
be,
like an opening round night. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to schedule something to
Pick
see
by
what
pick.
we can come up with. I don't know that we are going to be live next week unless there's a crazy good Masters finish. But look for us to post something on Instagram or Facebook about when we're going to be live next. We're not sure exactly when that'll be. Could be a few weeks, could be a month or so, just depending on how schedules go. But thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of our banter and our talk
You guys.
this week. And we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.